friends, I'm Stephanie Hansen for Stephanie's Dish and welcome to my kitchen. Today we are going to make a recipe that is from the True North Cabin Cookbook, a tomato and goat cheese tart that has a little bit of Gruyere. And we're going to start with making a simple crust for the base. I've got 1.25 cups of flour in my food processor. I'm going to scatter my European Kerrygold butter over the top and just give it a little quick couple of pulses before I start adding the liquid. I've got my butter frozen solid and I just took it out and cut it into chunks. So you'll be able to see those little pea-sized bits. I've got about a teaspoon of kosher salt. And then I start adding water by the tablespoonful until this all starts to come together. I'm gonna start with 2 tablespoons. I'm gonna give it a couple pulses. I'm gonna add a couple more. I typically end up with about 4 tablespoons of water and then my secret ingredient, which I'm gonna show you next. Different flours have a different way of binding, so it's hard to make pie crust and be super exact every single time. You just gotta kind of get a feel for it. So you can see it's starting to come together a little bit. The butter is a little large, it hasn't really broken down yet. So we've got a little bit of a ways to go. I'm gonna use 1 more tablespoon of water, and then I'm gonna use my secret ingredient, vodka. I'm gonna put a tablespoon of vodka in there. When you cook with vodka in a pie crust, it bakes out, so you get the moisture for rolling and making your crust, but then you don't have the moisture in the finished product because it evaporates. Now, if you can see in here, my dough is kind of starting to come together. I'm getting close, so I'm just gonna keep pulsing until I get all of my flour incorporated. And we just want this dough ball to come together. And then we will put it in the refrigerator and let it continue to solidify until I'm ready to roll it out for the tart. I was very afraid to make pie crust for a long time, but once I got my basic crust down, I can pretty much make a pie anytime. All right, I wanna see if it's gonna hold together when I dump it out onto the board, and you can see that it really will. It's coming together. You don't wanna warm up the butter too much with your hands, but I need it to get together into a ball, and I need to incorporate all these sort of dry, crumbly bits. As I do this, I'm warming up the dough a little bit with my hands, which is melting that butter, which is allowing it to pick up any of the dry bits in my mixture here. Okay, so we've got our crust. I'm just gonna press it into a disc here. And again, I'm gonna put it in the refrigerator for a little bit. You can put it in the freezer if you're in a hurry. I just wanna let it solidify a little bit before I start rolling it and putting it in my tart crust. Then we'll come back and roll it out and fill up the tart. Okay, so our crust has been chilling for about an hour. You can even do it quickly in the freezer. I'm gonna roll it out on parchment paper. And this is a quick trick my grandma showed me. You just put a dot of honey down on your board and it will help the parchment paper stick. It'll keep it from sliding around when we're rolling. I'm just gonna put a little bit of flour over here in case I need it. And I wanna roll it out this size. What I sometimes do is mark on a piece of paper. So I'm just kind of going along here just to give me a little guide. All right, I'm just gonna start rolling. You can see those big chunks of butter, which is great. It's cold, so everything is not sticking. And I wanna move fairly quickly, just moving around the edges, smoothing it out, pushing the dough out to the edge of the circle so that we can line our tart pan. Once I get out to this edge here, I know that this is gonna fit in my pan, but I also need enough to come up the sides. And I wanna make sure that it's pretty much an even thickness all the way around. I can always trim the edges. I have this already sprayed with cooking spray, including the base. So the first thing I do is just kind of get it situated in there. I can always come back and fill any holes that I need to. And it's looking pretty good. I didn't give a ton of room on the edge here, so I'm just gonna make sure that I'm pushing up on the edge so that I can get enough, and if I need to add to fill in any holes, I can do that. And you wanna come from the base and just push up and make sure that you're getting in all those cracks. Our butter is still staying pretty cold, but if you get concerned about it, You can always pop this back in the refrigerator or even in the freezer for a few minutes. I am going to put this in the freezer real quick while we get the mixture going that we're going to put on the base. I have a 4-ounce log of goat cheese that I'm just going to mash in with 2 tablespoons of mayonnaise and a tablespoon of Dijon or spicy brown mustard, whatever you have. Then we're going to add the Gruyere cheese. I've got my oven preheating at 375, and I'm going to put my base mixture in here and lay the tomatoes over the top. Okay, we've got a good base there. I'm going to give it just a little bit of the cheese here. And now we're just going to throw our tomatoes down. You can overlap them. You can put them in concentric circles, whatever feels good to you. There we go. We're going to hit it with some salt, some pepper. And then I'm going to finish it with this little cheese situation and my fresh oregano that I have picked from the garden. We're going to put this in the oven at 375 for about 15 minutes till our crust is brown, our tomatoes are giving up their juices, the cheese is melted, and everything looks cohesive and like it's coming together. Our tart is looking beautiful. If you want to make this tomato, goat cheese, and Gruyere tart with oregano with the fresh garden tomatoes, go to stephaniesdish.com and get the recipe.